A Chicago landlord says that they will pass on all the increased costs from the real estate transfer tax to the tenants. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of Chicago, Illinois, and it has to do with the proposed real estate transfer tax or wealth tax. Okay, it's similar to what they passed in Los Angeles, California, where basically when a property is sold that costs over a certain amount of money, they're going to apply a higher real estate transfer tax onto it, right? Which could cost landlords tens of thousands of dollars extra in taxes that they have to pay every time they want to sell a property. And, you know, this could cause a huge disruption in the real estate market, like what we see in Los Angeles. But you know what? The worst part about the whole real estate transfer tax thing is they intend on using the money to pay for housing for the homeless, right? And as I mentioned before, a lot of the housing for the homeless that they are trying to pay for right now is going to the recent border crossers, okay? And this is exactly why I think this is a complete joke, and they're robbing landlords, they're robbing property owners who are trying to sell their properties so that they can give housing to recent border crossers from other countries who have paid no taxes, who, you know, don't deserve our generosity, in my opinion, okay? And that's a complete joke. It's a complete joke, okay? Taxing your people who are actually, you know, contributing to the economy to pay for random people from other countries. Okay, that seems awfully dumb to me, you know, and I'll keep bringing this topic up because, you know what, this is, you know, robbing Peter to pay Paul, a simple, horrible example of socialism. And, you know, they think that this will solve all their problems. Well, the only thing it's really going to do is drive these businesses, these landlords out of the city, okay? It's going to make them increase their rents so that now the tenants have to pay even higher rents than they were paying before. And on top of that, it's not going to actually solve the homelessness issue. Okay, this is something that California, you should look at their example. Okay, they've been throwing billions of dollars at the homelessness issue for years. And at the same time, the homelessness is higher than it's ever been before. So yeah, I feel like that all these new taxes, all these new rules and regulations and these hoops that they want landlords to jump through, they only make the issue worse. Okay, they don't make things easier for the people who need affordable housing. They don't make things easier for landlords. They don't make things easier for the homeless. The only thing they do is they seem to make the government bigger. Okay, they make things worse. They drive people out. They want to make people leave the city. And you know what? Maybe that's what's going to be necessary in order for there to be real change. There has to be, you know, them hitting rock bottom, essentially, where, you know, they're losing tens of thousands of, you know, businesses and citizens as they escape to places that are more tax friendly, that are more, or that have less government regulations, where you can actually operate your business and not have to worry about the government sticking its hand into your pocket and robbing you. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So what do you think of this whole thing where they're trying to use this real estate transfer tax to pay for homelessness? Do you think it will actually help solve the homelessness issue? Okay? Do you think that it might not solve it and actually drive out these businesses or devalue their properties or force landlords to increase their rents, making housing even less affordable? That's what my personal belief is, but I'm just curious what the other people who watch this channel think. So anyway, let's get into the article and see what it says. This article is coming from SouthsideWeekly.com, and it says, Landlord warns tenants, don't vote for Bring Chicago Home. Group Fox Management threatened rent hikes if the real estate transfer tax referendum passes. You know what? It's going to happen, okay? We pass our costs onto the tenants. When you increase our costs in any way, you increase the trouble and the hoops we have to jump through and make things more difficult for us, the only way we can respond is with increased rents. Next thing they'll be doing is claiming, oh, we need rent control because these greedy landlords are raising their rent. No, you increase the cost of us doing business. And this is the end result. So anyway, let's see what the article says. For the last few weekends, supporters of Bring Chicago Home, a contentious housing referendum on the March primary ballot, have fanned out across the city to knock doors and convince voters to endorse the measure. It's the final push in a 6-year organizing effort that, if passed, would raise the transfer tax on property sales of more than $1 million to fund anti-homelessness efforts. Now, after a coalition of building owners sued to try to remove the referendum from the ballot, one landlord is telling tenants in downtown high-rises to vote against it. The referendum would raise the transfer tax to 2% on real estate sales above $1 million and 3% on sales above $1.5 million, while lowering it to 0.6% on sales below $1 million. Proponents of the measure say it would generate $100 million each year to address homelessness. If it passes, the city council will have to vote on how specifically to allocate that money. So yeah, the first thing you're going to see is that, they say the transfer tax would raise to 2% on real estate sales above 1 million and 3% on sales above 1.5 million, right? So the first thing you're going to see is those properties that were priced close to the $1 million mark might suddenly find themselves at trying to sell for $999,999 so that they are not subject to that higher tax, right? And instead they would pay the lower 0.6% tax. So imagine that. If you sell it for $1 less, you pay 1.4% less in transfer taxes. Okay, so this would incentivize those property owners who are selling their properties right in that little price range to lower the selling cost so that they don't have to pay as high of a transfer tax, right? So let's see, how much would that be? So for a $1 million property, a 10% of $1 million is 100,000. So 2% would be $20,000, right? So you'd be paying $20,000 for the transfer tax on $1 million property, whereas for a $999,999 property, you would be paying approximately $6,000. So you'd save 14 grand right there just by being a little bit cheaper than the threshold that they're talking about there, right? And if your property's over 1.5 million, and it's the same thing as you go up, right? Now, obviously, the numbers, they get larger with the more expensive the property is, right? And I know a lot of people are sitting there and they're thinking, oh, well, this only applies to those super rich people who have $1 million+ properties, right? And that may be the case. It does apply to those people. However, think about a property such as an apartment building that, maybe is 50 or $100 million, okay? And, when that property sells, all of a sudden they're paying this 3% transfer tax, okay? So you're paying this 3% transfer tax on a $100 million property, and, that's what is that, $3 million? Good Lord, okay? That's $3 million that you're paying on this transfer tax. And, if I don't know what the current transfer tax is, I don't believe it's 3%, but, significant amount of savings, a significant amount of savings if you don't have to pay this higher amount, right? So I don't really believe that this is going to work out the way that they think it will. Will this actually help with homelessness issue? No. Okay, it won't. Will it raise the amount of money that they think it will raise? No, it won't either. Because now you're going to, like I said, incentivize people to lower selling prices so that they pay less taxes or not sell at all. Okay, if people know they're subject to such a tax, they are less likely to sell. And that's exactly what we saw in Los Angeles when they implemented their mansion tax. Okay, the sales of properties in the price ranges that were subject to the tax declined by like 80%. Okay, so they're not raising nearly the amount of money that they thought they were going to raise. And the same exact thing will happen in Chicago. Lawyers for the Building Owners and Managers Association sued to take Bring Chicago Home off the ballot, and in a February ruling, a circuit court judge agreed that the referendum's wording made it invalid, but a state appellate judge overturned that ruling. The real estate group appealed to the state Supreme Court. The referendum is still on the ballot, and the votes will count, pending the ruling on the appeal. Last week, the Weekly learned tenants in 2 Streeterville buildings owned by Group Fox had gotten emails from management decrying Bring Chicago Home and saying rents would go up if it passes. Group Fox, an apartment management company owned by William O'Kane, has more than 4,000 units, mostly on the north side, as well as the South Loop and 2 suburbs. Rent in one of its loft buildings in Streeterville starts at $1,695 for a 471-foot studio. The median rent for studios citywide is about $1,200. Group Fox bought that building in 2016 for more than $200 million. There you go, right there, okay? A $200 million building, okay, that's being sold, that is subject to this transfer tax, would have to pay $6 million for the transfer tax. $6 million. Think about that for a minute, okay? The numbers are huge, and that could easily be the difference between, you know, whether you make a profit off of that building or not. And see, that's part of my problem with this sort of transfer tax, right? You could be selling the building at a loss and still have to pay that transfer tax, okay? That's ridiculous. You're not making a profit off of the building. You are taking a loss, and then you got to take another loss on top of that to pay the government. Give me a break, okay? Give me a break. This is part of the reason why, you know, I just don't agree with transfer taxes at all. But, you know, they already had a transfer tax in place in the city of Chicago. So the landlords who were buying there, they already knew what they were getting into in terms of the previous transfer tax. Now, they've decided they want to change the game in the middle, you know, and they change the rules of the game in the middle while you're playing, and you're going to get stuck with these additional taxes. Man, that would be awful. That would be absolutely awful. So anyway, let me know what you think of this whole situation down in the comments below. Do you agree with this landlord that, you know, they're going to see increases in rents due to this sort of tax? Do you think this will pass? Okay, I'm just curious what other people think who watch these videos.